Hi there, everybody. This is Jeremy Siskind. I'm the author of Playing Solo Jazz Piano. Oh, that made such a loud noise. As well as 2 volumes of Jazz Piano Fundamentals. These books fly very, very well, and they read really well, additionally. And today, I want to talk to you about the minor version of the 1-6-2-5 progression, which I find really interesting. You guys might be familiar with the 1-6-2-5 progression in its major form. You might be familiar with it in its minor form too, but this is one of the most important chord progressions in all of jazz. It's used in so many tunes. I'm thinking of tunes like The Blue Room, tunes like I Can't Get Started, tunes like I Could Write a Book, and probably most famously and most importantly, Rhythm Changes. So this general 1-6-2-5 progression goes from the 1 chord, I'll do this in B flat, 1 chord, to 6, usually minor, to 2, almost always minor, to 5, always dominant. So you get this. And one of the things that we love about this is it's a circular progression or a cyclical progression. It doesn't go anywhere. It leads back to its own beginning. And for this reason, this is a progression that's used a ton in introductions. So if I'm, if somebody's out introducing the piece, I can do this as many times as I want until they finally say, and now we're going to play Fly Me to the Moon, and then I'll do something to signal the start. So that's kind of your general overview of the 1-6-2-5 progression. And certainly this progression also exists in minor. And you could think of some tunes, maybe most importantly, Softly as in a Morning Sunrise, but also something like You Don't Know What Love Is, that use this 1-6-2-5 progression. Angel Eyes, I think, is another one. Although I always get Angel Eyes and another one confused. Anyway, doesn't matter. So the 1-6-2-5 is not as straightforward in minor as it is in major. So first, just looking in C and major, this is kind of your stereotypical 1-6-2-5. Here we're choosing all diatonic chords. Diatonic means from the keys with no added flats or sharps. So one thing that's interesting to note here, I think, is that even here, the 1 chord and the 6 chord are actually inversions for one another, right? C6 has C, E, G, A, and if you move that A to the bottom, you get exactly A minor 7. So these chords are really closely interlinked, the 1 chord and the 6 chord. I think a theorist could make an argument if they wanted that they were actually the same chord, just presented in 2 different inversions. Hold on to that thought. It's going to be important in a second. Very commonly, we will substitute a dominant chord in for the 6 chord. I know I'm still on major, but these things are going to be important as we consider what this looks like in minor. Right? This actually, to me, sounds and feels a little bit more normal than playing the minor 6 chord. This feels a little too sing-songy for jazz. Using that dominant version of the 6 chord, or probably you theory nerds out there will say it's the 5 of 2, meaning it's the dominant chord leading to that D minor. So hang on to that thought as well. And then it's not so unusual for the 2 chord to also be dominant. Oftentimes, adding more and more dominant chords gives us the opportunity to add more color and maybe even make a bluesier feel. So all of the chords, other than the 1 chord, probably, could be dominant. I didn't write it out, but just imagine that A being an A7. Okay, so those are some of the examples of wiggle room on a major 1-6-2-5. If you're interested in learning more about that, and including how you could use diminished chords to connect between them, in Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2, I do talk more about that. Okay, so what does a minor 1-6-2-5 progression look like? Before I slide this up and show you, we have to think a little bit about minor keys and minor scales. So what the 6th chord is a little bit unclear in minor because it really depends which minor scale you're using. If we're using the melodic minor scale, we have the same 6th as the major scale. And I'll show you. Right. In fact, the only difference between a major scale and the ascending melodic minor is that the 3rd is lower. And so if we build a 6th chord off of that, we're going to be using A natural as the 6th. If we use either the natural or the harmonic minor scale, and harmonic minor scale is usually what we build harmonies from, we're going to have A flat as the 6th, lowered as compared to the major scale. So you can see why there's a little bit of wiggle room here, why it's not exactly a clear 1-to-1 ratio. So I want to start here. This draws the chords from the harmonic minor scale. A flat is really nice, right? It's really kind of colorful. But I can imagine some of you sitting at home and saying like, yeah, it's kind of an interesting color. It doesn't really sound like a 1-6-2-5, meaning that it doesn't, kind of have that easy flow that we're used to in the 1-6-2-5 progression in major. And remember, when we started, we said, the 1 chord and the 6 chord are just inversions of each other if we think about a C6 and an A minor 7. And so another approach that we could take to this 1-6-2-5 is to use an A half diminished. Here, we're drawing the 6th from the melodic minor scale, so you're using the A natural. But here again, C minor 6 and A half diminished are just inversions of each other. If you play a C minor 6 and you take the A from the top and put it on the bottom, it's going to be just the same as A half diminished. So this is probably the most frequent version of the minor 1-6-2-5 progression that I hear. So if I'm playing Softly as in the Morning Sunrise, I'm probably choosing this A half diminished. Listen to how it sounds with the A flat. Totally lovely. Nothing wrong with that. And by the way, of course we can mix. We could do it once with the A natural, then once with the A flat. Okay. Now, just like our major 1-6-2-5 progression, we can substitute in dominant chords for the 6 and the 2. And this is also common to do in minor keys. So here we get now an A dominant 7th. We're probably adding a flat 9 and a flat 13. Lovely dark sound, and it does tend to go, my instinct is to add a D7 instead of the D half diminished in there. So just like we add dominant to the major 1-6-2-5, we can add dominant chords to that minor 1-6-2-5. Now, I want to show you something really interesting that happens here. So remember, we've said that we can use an A flat major for the 6, but weirdly, we can also use the A flat major for the 2. This is a very common substitution in minor keys, to replace it with the major chord a tritone away, to replace the 2 chord, the half diminished 2 chord, with major 7th chord tritone away. So instead of D half diminished, we're swapping in A flat major 7. So it's really strange that we could have the 6 chord and the 2 chord like could be the same thing. You know, that's pretty unusual, but this is a very common version of this progression. So notice when I'm choosing the A flat major for the 2 chord, I'm not choosing it for the 6 chord. That'd be a little bit weird to have literally the same chord twice in a row. But yeah, it can go in either one of those positions, which is really kind of bizarre. And then lastly, we can also have that true tritone substitution for the 2 chord. So, you know, imagine we were using a D7 there. If we do the tritone sub, we get an A flat 7. And this is also very common to do here in this progression. It's a little bit awkward because of the melody a couple times in that tune. So I'll show you this kind of whole list of different possibilities for this minor 1-6-2-5 progression. And there are, you know, other mix and match possibilities as well. But the beauty, the real fun of playing in minor keys is that you have these different options with the 6th and 7th, depending on which minor scale you're thinking of. So you can go all kinds of different ways and color things in a little bit differently. Thank you for watching that video. If this subject matter is really interesting to you, this book is the one that you want to check out. Here, this is Jazz Piano Fundamentals Book 2, the purple book. I think that's purple and orange. And we go into minor keys, minor substitutions, common ways to get through the 1-6-2-5 progression. It's a little bit more on the advanced side, whereas Book 1 is really for you know, beginners in jazz. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and say, I don't know, what should you say if you've watched all the way through the video? I have a new little Picasso drawing over here. So say Picasso if you made it all the way to the end. See you later.